Welcome back to another Coffee with Crainer show. Today I have Nour Hachem-Fawaz on the show today. She is the president and founder of Build a Dream. Build a Dream's been around for over 6 years, and she's also an employee relations coordinator at the University of Windsor. She's a recent graduate from the MBA program at the University of Windsor. And then also she's a mother. So she has her hands full, super active in the community and doing a great thing at Build a Dream. And if you don't know, Build a Dream attracts, encourages, and recruits female students to pursue a career in skilled trades. So today, Nour on the show is going to be joining us and talking a little bit about her experience with building a nonprofit, and then also inspiring and giving best practices for today's emerging leaders on how they can start their own nonprofit too. So thanks for joining me today, Nour.
Thanks for having me, Landon, and thanks for the kind words. And I'm really excited to be on the show with you again.
Awesome. Yeah, we were on the Windsor Wednesday show together, and now Coffee with Crainer, so it's great.
I'm so happy to see what you've done with the show and the connections you're making and the opportunity that you're creating for youth to learn from advisors in our community. So kudos to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And those watching who haven't checked out Build a Dream, they go live pretty much every week with women leaders from across Canada, and they're really talking about their experience in skilled trades. So definitely check out their show and their website too. I'll put the link on the screen here. But yeah, Nour, we're going to talk a little bit about your experience with Build a Dream and how you built it, some of the things you've learned along the way, and any best practices that you can share with today's emerging leaders.
Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. And there's only one thing I want to say. I've recently left the University of Windsor. They were an amazing employer for over 3 years, but then I had to make a very difficult decision to lead Build a Dream across Canada. So yes. I left the university in March, but I don't have enough great things to say about University of Windsor as a great employer and a great school. I'm an alum. I did my bachelor's of sociology there, and then I just completed my professional MBA. So I'm a huge fan of the University of Windsor, but I think it'd only be fair to say that I no longer work there and I'm leading Build a Dream full time.
Awesome. Congrats on your new venture and taking it on full time. That's amazing. You started this while you were in school, if I'm correct.
Yeah, actually, it was interesting how Build a Dream started. So for those that don't know the history, it was back in 2014. I was working for a not-for-profit organization at the time. Actually, I should date it back to 2012. And I was leading an employment service department at Women's Enterprise Skills Training of Windsor. They provide amazing services for women in our community, both newcomers and females looking for employment. And at the time, while I was leading the employment service department, we did an analysis of where our clients were finding employment. And I was often going out into the community and networking with companies and noticed that there was a huge demand in the skilled trades. So naively at the time, I hosted a workshop for our clients and invited over 200 of them to come learn about career opportunities in the skilled trades with the potential of making over $20 an hour to start and so on and so forth. And only one of our 200 clients showed up to the workshop. So at the time it was odd because I knew that these clients were very motivated and eager to find great paying positions. But oftentimes they were finding precarious work. So very low paying, minimum wage, part-time work. So I did a little bit more research with some of our community partners, and we found that women were underrepresented in the skilled trades and that there's so many different barriers preventing them from going into those occupations. So knowing that research and working with our community, we applied for funding at the time to lead a project to better understand what influences young women's career decisions, because we felt in order for us to create initiatives that would encourage them and that would motivate them to go into male-dominated industries, we needed to understand what were the factors they considered when selecting a career. So we were funded at the time to lead a project called We Succeed Beyond the Status Quo. And we talked to youth across Windsor-Essex from different high schools and asked them what influences their career decisions. And a few key factors played a significant role. So one, parents are a huge influencer when it comes to the career decisions young people are making. And secondly, young women still felt that there were careers they couldn't pursue simply because of their gender, and that they had a particular perception about careers in the skilled trades and what those opportunities entailed. So we launched our first Build a Dream event that was supposed to be a one-off event with the school boards, the college, the university, Women's Enterprise Skills Training of Windsor, and Workforce Windsor Essex, with the goal of not only inviting young women to learn about these career pathways, but inviting their parents to an evening event where they would be inspired by female role models, meet local employers that are looking to diversify the workforce, network with the university and the college to learn about what post-secondary opportunities are available. And then their high schools were there to show how you could start your career as early as high school through the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. So the first year was a huge success. We had over 130 parents and family and daughters attend, which typically these types of events attracted maybe 20 parents and their daughters. So it was a huge success, and the school boards wanted to see it continue in our community. So I chaired it for a number of years with our local partners. It's very grassroots. And in 2017, just based on my experience in the not-for-profit sector and then working at St. Clair College and traveling across Canada, leading different projects, I noticed that this was not a unique problem to Windsor and that this was happening across Canada. So I had this crazy idea that if this model can work in Windsor, it could potentially work anywhere. So in 2017, actually, I know Frank just signed in. I went to Frank Aberzazi and Jonathan Azzopardi from Laval, and I told them that I was going to register Build a Dream as a not-for-profit with the goal at the time to take it across Ontario and then potentially take it across Canada. And I was working at that time at the University of Windsor. So I went ahead, registered as a not-for-profit, and booked my first event in London, Ontario. And London, Ontario had over 400 attendees in our first year. And that just built the momentum. And now prior to COVID, we were in over 10 cities across Canada with the goal of expanding into 16 different cities. Now, plans have changed since then. But we're still expanding and we're still a national organization. So essentially it started in 2014 as a grassroots initiative in our amazing community of Windsor Essex, and now it's going national.
Awesome. It's a great story, and you've grown it like incredibly in the last few years. And I'm kind of curious, what sparked the passion to be a leader for women in the skilled trades?
I think it's coupled with a number of different experiences. So I've just recently started sharing more of my personal experience being raised by a single mom, and she had to go into the workforce full time 14 years ago to raise 4 kids on her own. And she ended up starting her own business selling motor oil and car parts. And I saw the challenges my mom faced in not only entering the labor market for the first time, but running a company that it was in a male-dominated sector. And then just seeing the challenges she faced growing up and recognizing that financial independence is key to getting women from facing multiple barriers, and that it's important for us to equip young women at an early age with the information, knowledge, and tools for them to make those informed decisions so that they could decide and choose careers that would lead them to financial independence. So using that as my motivation and knowing that I didn't want young women to go through what my mom went through and what my family went through. And I wanted to show that women have the potential to succeed across different sectors. And when we look at the male-dominated industries that we lead and that we're trying to encourage young women to pursue, they're high-paying positions. There's underrepresentation of female and their jobs in demand. So that always fuels my energy to want to show that women can do it. And what a lot of people don't know is growing up, I was often told I couldn't do many things simply because I was a woman or a young woman. And I feel that fueled my energy to now tell young women they can do anything they want to do. And I'm going to show you how, and we're going to empower you, and we're going to equip you with the necessary skills to do whatever you dream of. And truly, I think it's really important for us to show young women that you can help people and still make money and get comfortable with making money, because truly it is important for young women to make decisions that are going to lead them to that financial independence. So that personal story, coupled with entering the not-for-profit sector while I was in university by chance and falling in love with community development and service and giving back, fueled my energy to want to do more of this and to run a not-for-profit like a business with the goal of creating a social impact.
Yeah, you're putting three worlds together all at once and doing a great job. And I kind of want to talk a bit about what have been so far with Build a Dream. I mean, the journey's so young, and I know you're looking to do many great things in the future. But what have been some major accomplishments that you can boast about right now?
Yeah, there's a number of exciting accomplishments. I feel like every time we achieve a new milestone, we do a little dance, we take a selfie with the team. I have to say, some of like my proudest moments was when I'll give you a few. So one was when we scaled across the province of Ontario, and we were in Bruce County. It was in November. It's a small community. And if I'm honest, I was a little nervous about how many people we would attract for that particular event, only because the way the community is broken up and the distance from the location that we were hosting was a little bit further. And it was just a whole different process that we went through for Bruce County. But then I walked into the room and it was a full house. Like, there was no more seats available, and it was a standing room. There was over 400, and it's a small community. And it made me so proud to see that this impact can happen in large cities, rural communities, and that there are parents so encouraged and eager to help their daughters fulfill their dreams. So that was a proud moment, along with seeing the organization scale. So every time we booked a new city, it just fueled my energy to see that we were on the right track. The other one was when I started hiring my team. And I remember hiring our first full-time marketing director, which is Victoria Rose. And she started off as a volunteer, and she literally did so much for the organization. And I really wanted her energy and her character and her work ethic to be part of the organization. So I encouraged her to apply for the marketing director position and said, "You are exactly what I want to be a part of the Build a Dream movement. You are committed to the mission. You were giving to us before you were even getting paid. And I think that you would make a great addition to the team." Mm-hmm. So recruiting her, and then Anne Hetherington, who worked at the college for over 20 years, she retired and then joined our team. I think I realized the potential for us to do great work and recruit a skilled and talented team to do the work was such a huge milestone. And we just recruited Ryan Wood, who's an engineer by trade. We have Maya, who is a recent graduate from the University of Windsor. Maria Spriggs, who's so talented in helping us with our website and all of our tech needs. So I think once I started building out my team, that was another milestone, because it was a volunteer-run organization up until 2018. So wow. Everyone that was doing this, including myself, was unpaid volunteering. I feel like I was volunteering full-time. Like, Build a Dream was my second life, or like probably a huge part of my first priority. And so that was another milestone. And then when I moved my office from my kitchen table to the accelerator, that was really, really exciting. So all those things are small victories that mean so much, especially for those startups, that once you move from running your company in your house to running it in an actual building and having a team, it really feels real, and you get to celebrate those milestones with everyone. And then, of course, I can't lie and say that the biggest win was the government funding, the federal funding that we received in February. And the funny story, I have to share this with you. So I had been what people don't know, I had been working on that funding for almost 2 years behind the scenes, essentially begging and turning every corner and talking to everyone in government so that they could kind of hear the Build a Dream story and invest in Build a Dream. So I remember calling to follow up about this application. I was just saying, okay, like, where are we? I'm thinking we're not going to find out till April or May. And so the person on the phone says, oh, you didn't get a call from the government? So I thought, here's another no, because you get so many no's before you get your first.
Yes.
And I was like, no. And I was like really discouraged. And she's like, okay, well, I guess I'll steal their thunder and I'll let you know that you were funded. I'm
Wow.
like, really? And she's like, funded. I was like, for how much? She's like, the full amount. I was like, for the $730,000 we were funded? And she said, yes. And
wow.
So I said to her, I was like, I need to put you on hold for a minute and just take this in, because this is a huge win for our organization.
Oh, yeah.
So that moment, I remember crying and just being like, calling my team and then calling my family. And just, it was a moment I'll never forget. That really made a difference and has really pivoted the organization to be able to actually survive COVID and then still do the work that we're doing. So those are just a few milestones, along with a million other ones where I get a chance to hear amazing female role models' stories, and I'm constantly motivated and empowered by their journey. I get to work with amazing companies like Ellis Dawn and Next Dimension, the Carpenters Union, and they're like-minded. They're passionate about diversity and inclusion, and it's watching communities come together to reach this goal of diversifying the workforce while empowering young women to make those decisions. So I'm very fortunate to be able to lead this amazing organization that's doing great work.
Yes, you're doing great work, and you're an inspiration to me and many other young women across the country. So that's awesome, and congrats on the big news in February. That's amazing.
Thank you, Landon. And honestly, I love what you're doing. And I remember when when I first met you during the leadership summit that you hosted in Leamington, I was absolutely blown away. I was recruited by chance because Arthur couldn't make it. So he kind of plugged me in last minute. I took his spot and I saw what you did. And I have to say, when I see young people like you lead and thrive and create their platform and have a voice, it motivates me more to do the work that I'm doing, because we need you to solve all these crazy problems that are facing our communities and to be role models and to show other young people that, yes, you can. So I'm just as inspired by your leadership, and I'm so glad you started Live with Crainer, and I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. And I know your journey with Build a Dream has been over 6 years, and I imagine you've learned so many different things being the president of the organization. Are you able to share some things that you've learned to hopefully those who are starting up a nonprofit, maybe they're able to learn from that and move forward in their career? So what are some things that you've learned so far while being president at Build a Dream?
Definitely. I learned something new every day. This last 8 weeks, I've probably learned more than I have in the last 6 years. I think many people have felt the same way. I think one of the things that I've learned is the power of asking why and being curious and looking at a problem, not through a lens of, oh, I can't solve that because it's too big. Like, for example, the underrepresentation of women in the trades is a large problem. There's multiple barriers. There's so many layers to it. And there's so many things that we need to address in order to increase those numbers. But start small. Like, start thinking, okay, what role could you play, even making a small impact? And then as you get more comfortable in that, you start seeing the potential of solving a big problem in a meaningful way, because you start learning the different skills and knowledge to be able to address these challenges. And I think sometimes that's what prevents people from maybe taking part or taking action, because it seems so daunting to start. But I would encourage you to start small, and that we all play a role in addressing some of the issues, in that community challenges. When you hear about poverty, when you hear about mental health, when you hear about workforce unemployment, those are issues, or climate change. Those are issues that we should all feel the need to be a part of in solving the problem, and that we need diversity in thought to be able to address these issues. So I think the first thing is asking more why. Why is it like that? And addressing your own biases. And, you know, like when we hosted the workshop at Women's Enterprise and only one client showed up, it would have been much easier to say and to think women were just not interested in these positions. And that's what I was hearing often when I would go out and ask people, you know, why is there the underrepresentation? And everyone said, women are just not interested in these positions. But instead, we dug a little bit deeper. We did our research. We wanted to understand the problem at its fullest, as opposed to at its surface. And I think that's, even now, what I'm seeing is, you know, we're so quick to make comments. We're so quick to make assumptions. But if we just paused for a minute and did a little bit more research and then formulated our opinion or a decision, that would help lead you to action. The other thing that I've learned is time is your greatest asset. I can't express this enough. So people often ask me, like, how was I able to work full time, have a baby, leave third grade, and then go to school?
Yeah.
It was a little insane, and there was a lot of tears shed along the way. But I think one of the things I've learned to maximize is my time. And I value my time more than anything. I value my time with my Adam. I value my time with my family. I value every moment I'm working in Build a Dream. I value that. So I just prioritize what I was working on. And honestly, I learned how to separate. I learned how, like, if I'm working, you're not gonna hear me answer your text. Unfortunately, I'm the worst texter because I'm so focused.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
in my mind, I'm like, I have 8 hours, and I need to get as much done in these 8 hours, because the second I go home and I see Adam, I drop everything and I'm focused on my child, because he was just in daycare. And now I want to spend quality time with him uninterrupted. So that's another thing that I wish I learned that much sooner, the value of time. And even if I translate that back to students, and I wish I did this in undergrad, is put a value to your time. Put a dollar amount. Yes, I know you're working towards your degree and you're paying for university, but imagine you added an hourly rate and said, this is how much my time is worth. The results that would create, you would work much harder, because you're like, okay, this is worth money. This is worth more than just, a lecture. I need to do well in this lecture, in this class, because I have an end goal. So really putting that value of time as an asset is crucial. And then the value of relationships. I think in every aspect of leading Build a Dream, whether it's relationships with your employees, whether it's relationships with the community, relationships with your sponsors, with the government, with your consumers, and so that's women in the industry, that's families, that's parents, that's youth. Those relationships are what make Build a Dream so strong. It's what makes Build a Dream stand apart. It's what makes Build a Dream unique. I feel that one of the things that's always top of mind in our organization is, what experience are we going to create for those that we're serving? So that could translate for events. So what feeling do we want young people, young women to feel when they come to our event and when they leave our event? What conversations do we want to inspire at the dining room table? What do we want to encourage companies to do? How can we help them transform their workforce? Educators, what steps can educators take to help build the pipeline as early as high school? So it's all about, at the end of the day, relationships. People need to trust you. They need to respect you. They need to see that you are knowledgeable about what you're talking about. So for us as an organization, and if I look at all of my staff, everyone's an expert in their own right with what we are doing. There's been extensive amount of research that's been done to help us create this model for Build a Dream. And one of the things that, going back to time, I used my courses during my professional MBA to build the Build a Dream model, to go up to my professors at the University of Windsor and say, listen, I know I have to create this marketing strategy. Is it okay if I create a marketing strategy for Build a Dream? Because this is going to translate into an actual practical plan that's going to be implemented into the organization. And overwhelmingly, they said yes, which again, I valued my time. I maximized it. I was creative in the way I used it. I finished my MBA and built an organization. So I think that those are a few skills that I've learned. And then the last one is I keep saying this, is mistakes are inevitable and failure is going to happen. And be confident in that. Learn from those mistakes. Grow from those mistakes. The greatest mistakes I've made have led me to where I am today. And there are moments in Build a Dream that many people don't know that I thought there is no way we're going to make it another day. And it was the mindset shift and seeing that problem differently that helped lead the organization to become a national organization impacting thousands of lives. So those are a few lessons amongst many other lessons that I've learned leading Build a Dream.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I can so relate with, you made the point of trying to integrate what you're working on with your education, and especially at the University of Windsor. And I imagine it's the same thing with St. Clair and even in high school, is integrating your passions towards what you're working on in the class. As an example, I was able to take a class where I could focus on a project at where I worked, right? So if you're able to use your passion, what you're passionate about, like Build a Dream, and you worked on it throughout your MBA, you're putting two worlds and they're colliding, right? And you're able to focus on it. So that's so important. And it talks so much about how valuable your time is.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you did it too. And I think that even if we translate it back to high school, think of the 40 hours of community service we need to finish. That's a phenomenal opportunity to get experience with a not-for-profit company organization that you're passionate about, and that then you're able to build your skills, your talents, build relationships, your communication abilities. So I know the University of Windsor is really good at that, because if you think about it, education's goal is to provide us the knowledge to be able to apply it into the workforce. But imagine the beauty in colliding both those worlds together. It enhances both your learning experience and their teaching environment. And if I look at my professional MBA, I owe a lot to my professors for the growth of Build a Dream. The investment, the commitment they made to advise me on Build a Dream was invaluable. So even if I look at the University of Windsor as a potential school for students, the ability for you to get to know your professors in an intimate way, is in a meaningful way, is invaluable. Take that from someone that was able to lead a national organization while juggling a million other things. So I'm so glad to hear that you're doing it. And I definitely encourage more young people to do it.
Exactly. Experiential learning is so important. It's something I'm passionate about, putting what you're working on in the classroom out into the workforce. And for those watching who are, whether they're in university, college, high school, and you're running a nonprofit, you're running a community group, Nour is going to share some advice on those looking to start that nonprofit, because I think it's important that those who are interested in it, they know a little bit about fundraising and some of the struggles that you have starting up a nonprofit. So I'm excited to hear your advice on those my age. What can we do to create a nonprofit?
Definitely. I'm excited to share this. And I love when I hear young people starting things. It's the most beautiful combination, because you guys can start amazing things and accomplish so much success. So I want to take you back to when I actually started university. And I'm Lebanese. I was actually born in Lebanon and then immigrated to Canada when I was 1. And at the time, Lebanon was going through a war, and there was a huge impact on the lives of everyone in my country. And it hit me really hard living in Canada and having the privilege and honor of belonging to such a beautiful country that provides safety and freedom, and knowing that back home they were struggling and there was a war happening. So I really had this fire in me to give back. Like, I wanted to do something that would help alleviate some of those burdens. So I decided to run a fashion show called Celebrations for Life, and to raise money to send back home, and specifically through World Vision to support children that lost their families in the war. So I started from scratch and had to develop this whole plan on my own. And I recruited volunteers, and I was a volunteer to help me. And just thinking back at that moment of starting from scratch, some of the advice that I would give is, 1, don't be afraid to ask for help. People are so willing to help you, especially when it's a cause that resonates with them. So ask for help. You are not the most skilled or expert in this area, and that's okay. Surround yourself with smart people and skilled people, and they will help get you there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is get ready for a lot of no's when it comes to fundraising, because not everyone's going to open up their wallets and hand you money. And that's okay. So I always joke, I say for every 100 no's I get 1 yes, and that's okay, because I'm now used to all these no's and rejections. It's made me stronger. But once you learn that, the world is filled with possibilities, because you're no longer worried or scared about what the answer is going to be, because if you never ask, then the answer is always no. So the chances of it being yes, it increases dramatically by simply asking. So I think it's getting comfortable with fundraising and why you're asking for money, because I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, and that's really key to running these initiatives. But always think of, why is it important that they give you that dollar? And then if you could really promote that, if you can speak with passion, if you could walk them through storytelling of why this is going to make an impact in their community, your chances will definitely increase. So I think that's another tool that I've learned over the years of just working in sales and then working in fundraising for over 13 years, and then raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for Build a Dream. I mean, if you think about it, Build a Dream is a not-for-profit organization, and February was the first time we got government funding. So up until then, we were fundraising every dollar for our organization to scale it across Canada. So I'm used to the no's, but trust me, when you get the yeses, it's a huge celebration, and every dollar counts. So that's another thing. The other thing is, so building your team, getting used to asking for money, getting comfortable with the no's, and similarly to what you learn in business school with creating a business plan, it's the same thing for not-for-profit. You need to generate a plan to outline, what would it cost you? So if I look back to the fashion show, what did it cost me to run that fashion show? We ended up making close to $20,000. We raised $20,000 to send to World Vision. But what did it cost me? So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, it cost me $15,000 to raise $20,000. In business, you would say that's not a profitable or a positive return, because you've raised technically only $5,000, and how many invested hours were put into this event. So you have to be mindful of that. And that's something that I've learned over the years, is create that plan and see how much money you're able to generate. And don't only think of fundraising as asking for money. Fundraising could be asking for skills, asking for services. So for example, you want to put a marketing, you want to put flyers together, and you don't have that skill in-house. You either recruit a volunteer with the marketing skills, or you recruit a marketing firm and ask them if in-kind donation in return for a sponsorship. So I think that that's getting creative with your asks and seeing what resources and network you have amongst your team. So if you have a group of 5, the first step I would say is, who do we know and who's in our circle that can support this cause? And then that will help generate more leads and more opportunities for you to raise money. And then starting a not-for-profit is not easy, okay? But that's okay. It doesn't need to be easy. But I look back and I had 10 years of experience working in the not-for-profit sector. And it was actually the fact that I was exhausted and discouraged when funding would end. So would the amazing projects we would lead. And to me, that bothered me so much that I'm like, I need to go and gain experience in the educational sector, and then go and gain experience in the corporate world. And then I'm going to start a not-for-profit that's going to run like a business and generate enough revenue to sustain these projects. And that motivated me to learn the skills I needed and to gain the experience. So I didn't just start a not-for-profit without any background. I've sat on boards. So get involved with not-for-profit organizations. Understand how that world works. And truly, when you think of not-for-profit, it's like a business, but the goal is to generate enough revenue to create a social impact. So that's very key when you think of not-for-profit and you're doing good for the community. So run it like you would a business, but with the goal of creating a social impact. So for Build a Dream, we depend heavily on our own revenue streams to lead our organization. And with COVID, 80% of our existing model no longer exists. It's in-person events. So now we have to pivot and get creative and see what other tools and revenue streams we can create. So for students that are looking to start a not-for-profit, get involved, talk to other not-for-profit leaders. I can't express to you how many amazing organizations there are in Windsor that are more than willing to help guide students and that are more than willing to accept volunteers. Build a Dream is willing to accept volunteers. We're always looking for volunteers to help us. So that is a great way for you to get experience. Apply to sit on boards. Learn from leaders. You get to network with amazing leaders on the boards that can help guide you in understanding how a not-for-profit runs. And start small, think big. And I always say that. Always think big, but start small. And it's small steps that lead to great things. And I look at my experience running the fashion show, my first year of university at 18, raising $20,000. That was my first big fundraising event, and doing that for a couple of years to raise money for local charity. And then now leading an organization that focuses on raising money. It's amazing how much every experience, every opportunity leads you to where you can become, and it doesn't happen overnight. And another thing that I want to encourage students, and I know it's difficult times right now, one thing that I've been trying to be more mindful of is sharing that journey, both the good and the bad, and being very vulnerable about the reality of what it's like running a company or an organization. So one of the things I want to encourage students is, it might look like everything is just happening smoothly, but 80% of what actually happens, you never hear about.
Yeah.
And I genuinely mean that. So the funding that Build a Dream just received from the government, people were shocked. How did that happen? It started 2 years ago. That work started 2 years ago on top of so much other work. So I think that for students, I hope you're inspired and encouraged to solve some of these challenges. And I hope you take the opportunities in school and during clubs to initiate change that I would love to hear about in years to come has led to a national global movement. And I think one of the things I've learned the most along my journey as a leader is the value that young people's advice, suggestions, ideas create to make change happen. I'm often going back to young people and saying, what do you think? Because they have the greatest ideas, and we just need to empower them to initiate and to put those ideas into action, and great things will happen.
Awesome. Yeah, that advice, I hope it's helping those who are watching today. Nour has been doing this for a while. She's got involved with a bunch of different boards before starting a nonprofit. So it's so important to get that experience before you try to build a nonprofit, because there's so many different things in the background and experience that's needed in order to create that organization. So thinking of starting small but thinking big, what are some future goals that you have for Build a Dream that you can share with those watching?
For sure. So my team loves it because they sometimes don't love it, but I'll come up with a big idea and then they help me walk back, and then we start doing them in steps. So that's something I'm learning. So our first thing is our Digital Career Discovery Expo. It's happening on May 27th. We have close to 2,500 families registered to tune in, which is very exciting.
Wow.
We're probably going to get the 3,000 capacity. So that's amazing. So think of Build a Dream, and then it's going to go digital. So everything that we do in person, we're going to start doing online. And then we have some really exciting projects that we're building out. One of the things that we found is we've done some amazing work in 6 years, not just in encouraging young women to consider career pathways, but we've raised awareness. We've helped recruit women into the industry. We've helped retain women in the industry, and we've helped women advance within the industry as well. So we're going to start packaging some of those skills and knowledge that we've gained to help support companies in diversifying their workforce and really put numbers to some of our goals. So, for example, we're currently working on a research project to better understand the underrepresentation of women in manufacturing and what could be done. So a lot of the work that you're going to see for Build a Dream in the future is going to be very practical, very hands-on, and it's going to support every segment of our target population. So we're not only going to empower young women, but we're going to work a lot more closely with our educational partners and our industry partners to help create awareness, recruit women in the industry, but also retain them and help them advance. You've mentioned our Facebook Live. I've been hosting our Dare to Dream podcast. So we're going to help families navigate the career discovery journey with their children. So going back to all the years of experience I have in the workforce development world and industry, and then the experience with my team, we have some extensive opportunity for us to provide families the tools they need to navigate the different career pathways. So that's something else that you should look forward to. And there's going to be a lot more marketing campaigns that are going to occur to help continue the conversation about women in the workforce. And one of the things that we've been very fortunate to see, especially during COVID, where you could easily be caught up in everything that you've lost or that's not worked out as planned, other beautiful opportunities have come up. And I've received so many calls from associations and organizations that are looking to build a dream to help build a diversity plan, whether it's to recruit more women into a particular industry or to do more research. And that speaks volumes to our position in the community, but to our success in the work that we're doing. And then one of the things that we found is that all of our key corporate partners, Ellis Don, next I mentioned, the Carpenters Union, CUSW, the University of Windsor, everyone continued to step up during the time we needed them most. So they've really fueled and energized us to keep going and doing what we do. And the one last thing I want to say about our plan, and I really want to drive this home for students, create your own board of directors. And what I mean by that is look at where you want to be in 5 years, in 4 years, and surround yourself with those role models, mentors, coaches, advisors that will help get you there, that will lead you in the right direction, that will guide you, that will open doors for you. One of the things that I've been so fortunate to have is a board of my own board of directors and coaches that are invested in seeing me succeed. Imagine that, people invested in your success. So I encourage you to start as early as even high school, but in post-secondary, when you're building these relationships and these contacts, go outside of campus and start exploring what's in the work world and build those advisors. And I can't express how many are prepared to do that for you, because if I look at where Build a Dream is headed in 5 years or in the next couple of years, it looks so different than it did if we had done this interview in February, and it was hard, right? Like,
yeah,
I was going to host our first event in Calgary. Could you imagine? Like, first out of province event. It was a huge pivotal moment for the organization. We were hosting 5 events in the GTA area. We had everything planned, and then everything had to be canceled.
Yeah.
That was a huge hit. But then I looked to my board of directors, my own personal board of directors, called each one individually and said, how do I overcome this?
Yeah.
And they got me and they helped guide me in the right direction. And then I looked to my team that is so committed to the mission to get us there. So there's a lot of great things that are happening at Build a Dream. We're taking these challenges and creating more opportunities, because the one thing we know for sure that's not going to change is that it's the underrepresentation of women in these industries will continue post-COVID, which means that our mission must and will continue post-COVID. So I'm just really thrilled, because we're equipped with a lot of amazing supporters that amazing things are going to happen for us.
Awesome. I'm so excited. And for those women that are watching, definitely check out webuildadream.com. If you are interested in a career and skill trades, Build a Dream will help encourage you and give you advice on how you can enter that workforce. They're doing so many great things. Definitely check out their expo on their website. And thanks so much for joining me today, Nour.
Thank you so much, Landon. I really appreciated it. And yes, please tune in. Go to Build a Dream. You can reach me on my personal social media as well. And our organization also focuses on the skill trades, science, technology, engineering and math, emergency response, and entrepreneurship. So any of those pathways, make sure to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help guide you on the right direction. And register May 27th for an Unreal Digital Career Discovery Expo with over 2,500 families already registered to attend. So I really appreciate this opportunity, Landon, and keep doing amazing work. We're so grateful for your contribution to our community.
Thank you. You as well. You're inspiring many, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, Landon. Bye.